My husband, Brian, who I stood by through every challenge, was promoted to department head. However, everything crumbled when my best friend took him away. He abandoned me and the child we had raised together, betraying me just as thoroughly as my trusted friend. It was the lowest point I had ever reached. Yet, thanks to my daughter, now an adult starting her career, I found the strength to heal and move on. 2 years later, I unexpectedly crossed paths with them in the city. My former best friend looked at the man beside me with a sneer. "A poor, old man suits you perfectly," she said, smirking. I kept my composure and replied calmly, "It's nice to see you, don't you recognize me?" She looked puzzled. My ex-husband rushed over, a panic-stricken expression on his face. Turning to both of them, I said, "Let me reintroduce myself. My name is Sarah. Until 2 years ago, I was Sarah Ingram." 2 years ago, my husband, Matt, the man I married at 24 after a whirlwind romance, asked me for a divorce right after being promoted to department head. I had met Matt when I had just graduated from college, and he was a senior colleague. Not long into our relationship, I discovered I was pregnant. We got married quickly, and I gave up my job to raise our daughter, Emma, who is now 22 and flourishing in her career. I had hoped that I could finally enjoy the second chapter of my life with Matt now that Emma was independent, but that hope was shattered when Matt came home one evening with a cold, distant expression. I had prepared a special dinner to celebrate his promotion, and when he sat down, he couldn't even meet my eyes. "We need to talk," he said gravely. I tried to stay optimistic, thinking it was about our future with his career now secure, but his words pierced through me like a knife. "I want a divorce. I've fallen for someone else." I was stunned. 4 years, I had supported him, raising Emma while he focused on his ambitions. I had believed every excuse about work dinners and business golf outings. I never suspected he was betraying me. My life had revolved around our family, and I thought his gratitude and loyalty were something I could rely on. But instead, Matt left me for my best friend. They both betrayed me. Alone and heartbroken, I struggled to put the pieces of my life back together. Emma's strength and resilience helped me keep going. Now, 2 years later, as I stood in front of them in the city, I felt only calm. The man beside me, a supportive and caring partner, smiled as I introduced myself. My ex-husband and former friend were clearly rattled, but I was unshaken. I had already regained control of my life. I had always been behind the scenes, supporting Matt. I watched him face challenges after our unexpected pregnancy and my decision to leave work. One of his superiors had once remarked, "He's a rookie with a slow pace, but he knows how to get a woman pregnant fast." That comment hurt us both. Despite the judgment, Matt worked hard to prove himself, eventually earning a quick promotion to department head. I wanted his success to reflect well on both of us. I carefully selected thoughtful gifts for his bosses, even when it wasn't easy. At company events, I smiled politely, knowing I was being judged for leaving work early. I didn't mind. I did all of it because I believed in him and wanted to see him succeed. But instead of appreciating my support, Matt gave me the ultimate betrayal. Until the day he asked for a divorce, I never suspected Matt was having an affair. Was I naive? Had I missed the signs? I had to know the truth, no matter how painful it was. "Who is she?" I asked, my voice trembling. Maybe it was just a brief fling, something he would get over. Matt hesitated before answering. "You know her. She's someone close to you." My mind raced. Could it be one of Emma's friends? A colleague? But then Matt blurted out, "It's Michelle." Michelle, my best friend since childhood, the person I trusted more than anyone. We had shared everything, joys, struggles, even our families. When Matt and I got engaged, Michelle had asked me to introduce her to one of Matt's friends. She later married him, and they had a daughter, Jessica, who was 3 years younger than Emma. 4 years, we bonded over parenting, barbecues, and advice. I never imagined she would betray me like this. Memories of Michelle came flooding back. Once, when I was holding on to some of Emma's old clothes, Michelle had joked, "Holding on to these things? That's the sign of a toxic parent. It's just stuff. Sarah, you need to let go." Her words stung, but I tried to be less sentimental. I even gave Michelle some of Emma's old clothes as hand-me-downs, though I struggled to part with one item, Emma's preschool uniform. It held too many memories. I lied to Michelle, telling her I might need it for another child, and asked her to return it once Jessica had outgrown it. Michelle's marriage didn't last, and by the time Jessica was in kindergarten, she and her husband had divorced. When Michelle gave me back the uniform, I felt relieved, but her words lingered. "Must be nice to be a housewife, huh, Sarah? I'm still dating." but as a single parent, I can't give Jessica a sibling. At the time, Michelle hadn't shared the details of her marital troubles. I empathized with her struggles, but I was also dealing with my own. I had wanted a second child, but Matt's long hours and lack of interest had put that dream to rest. I let go of that hope, feeling grateful in some ways that I was better off than Michelle. But now, hearing Matt speak her name, the betrayal cut deeper. Michelle, who once accused me of dating my own husband, had now stolen him from me. "The guy you introduced me to left me for another woman," she had bitterly said once. I hadn't denied it, only smiled sympathetically. I never imagined she would turn around and do the same to me. After Michelle's divorce, I tried to help her and her daughter, Jessica, however I could. I even became Jessica's emergency contact at daycare, taking her to doctor's appointments and looking after her when Michelle was unavailable. When Emma moved on to middle school, I took a full-time job to help with our finances. Matt, supportive at the time, agreed, and Emma was on board too. But now, everything had changed. The man who had once been my partner, the one I had supported for years, was gone, replaced by my best friend. Yet, I had rebuilt my life and was no longer held back by their betrayal. After years of dedicating myself to my family, I was finally ready to start a new phase of my life. Working full-time meant I could no longer be there for Jessica after school. Michelle and I made adjustments, and soon Jessica was coming home to an empty house. I figured it wasn't my responsibility anymore, and life just kept moving forward. As the years passed, Michelle and I saw less of each other. We didn't meet up as often as we used to when the kids were younger, but she remained my closest friend, that is, until one day, when Matt's unexpected words destroyed everything. "I want a divorce. I'm in love with Michelle." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I tried to laugh, thinking he was joking. "You're kidding, right? Michelle is my best friend." But Matt's expression was dead serious. "I know she's your best friend, but I can't help how I feel. I've fallen for her." I was speechless. How could a 49-year-old man, with a 22-year-old daughter, say something so ridiculous? It felt like a bad soap opera. "So, this is just a crush, right? Michelle would never betray me," I said, desperately clinging to hope. I called Michelle immediately. She picked up on the first ring. "Michelle, can you come over?" Matt's saying crazy things, but instead of laughing it off, Michelle chuckled. "Oh, I already know. Matt told me he was asking you for a divorce today." "You knew?" My heart dropped. "Yeah, Sarah, I'm sorry, but Matt's in love with me. He wants to divorce you and marry me." I felt the ground beneath me vanish. My husband and my best friend had been secretly conspiring behind my back. I couldn't process it. Matt left the room, muttering something about needing a smoke. When he came back, he wasn't alone. Michelle walked in right behind him, both of them looking determined. "Sarah, I'm really sorry," Matt said, "but Michelle is the one for me now." Michelle's apology felt fake, and the smirk on her face made everything worse. I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Didn't you have a boyfriend, Michelle? You always did, even after your divorce, and some of them helped you financially." Her face hardened. "Sarah, don't bring that up in front of Matt. Those boyfriends were nothing serious. The truth is, I've always loved Matt." She added some fake tears for drama, making the whole situation even more painful. To my shock, Matt gently stroked her hair, as if this betrayal was something I should just accept. It was like he saw himself as the tragic hero in this ridiculous tale. My heart shattered. "Since when?" I whispered. "We've been meeting in secret for a long time," Michelle confessed, shamelessly, "but we only started discussing marriage after Matt's promotion." I felt like a fool. They'd been lying to me for so long. Michelle had latched onto Matt for his success, and now it was clear she saw him as her way to a better life. "Now that you know, just go ahead and divorce him," Michelle said, her smirk growing wider. Her attitude made me feel even more foolish, but I forced myself to respond. "Fine, I'll divorce him, but what about Jessica? Does she know? Don't ignore your daughter's feelings." Matt briefly looked guilty but muttered, "Jessica turned 18 and moved out. She's no longer my responsibility. It's probably your fault she turned out so defiant with all the time you spent with her." Their indifference was staggering. I didn't even know Jessica had moved out. When Matt handed me the divorce papers, with Michelle's signature already on the guarantee section, I couldn't summon the strength to argue. That document was the final confirmation that this was over. I agreed to the divorce, and Matt began packing his things to move in with Michelle. I never imagined Michelle would treat my husband like an old possession to discard, but here we were. The following day, when Emma returned from her business trip, I told her everything. Her reaction was stronger than I expected. "That man isn't my father anymore," she said firmly, "and Michelle, she's the worst person I've ever known." Her words shook me, but I could see how much stronger Emma had become. She was angry, but she was holding it together in a way I couldn't. I hugged her, something we hadn't done in years. In that moment, I promised to be a better parent. 2 years went by without a word from Matt or Michelle. Emma thrived in her independence, and we had no reason to reach out to Matt. Michelle had moved far away after marrying him, and our paths didn't cross again until one evening after a play, when I ran into them by chance. Our eyes met. I couldn't avoid them, and Michelle's mocking voice sliced through the air. "A poor-looking old man suits you," she sneered, eyeing the man beside me. I didn't take the bait. I'd just enjoyed a lovely evening with Jonathan, my new boyfriend. We had been watching the play together. Instead of responding to her insult, I gave her a calm, steady look. "Good to see you, Michelle. Don't you recognize him?" Michelle's smirk faltered, and she stared at Jonathan in disbelief. "Wait, you're Jonathan?" Matt stammered. Jonathan had been Matt's senior at the company, mentoring him when Matt first started. I hadn't known this at the time, but we'd reconnected through a mutual acquaintance. That's how we began dating. Michelle's face twisted as the memory came rushing back. I had once introduced Jonathan to her as a potential partner, but she had dismissed him, saying he was too old and not stylish enough. Now, Jonathan was a completely different man, polished, refined, and successful. Michelle's shallow nature had blinded her to his worth. Jonathan spoke calmly. "Relax, Michelle. It's not a big company, and my income isn't huge, but starting my own business worked out for the best." Michelle's eyes widened. "What? He's a CEO?" she blurted. "If I'd known that, I wouldn't have married Matt. He's so cheap." Her crudeness made me feel sorry for her. Jonathan, unfazed, shrugged. "It's not about titles, Michelle. It's about character." I then noticed Emma and Jessica nearby, having overheard the exchange. Guilt swept over me. They shouldn't have had to see this, but their faces showed no shock. They were resolute. "Still relying on men after all these years," Emma said, her voice cutting. Michelle turned, trying to sound like a concerned mother. "Jessica, Emma, how have you been?" But neither of them was interested in pretending. Jessica, standing tall, spoke with quiet strength. "I loved you once, Mom, but after the divorce, you dated random men and moved us around. It made me uncomfortable. I used to wish Miss Sarah was my mom." Her words hit me hard, but I hugged her tightly, feeling our bond strengthen. Jonathan's voice broke the tension. "Let's leave these fools behind and grab a nice meal." We walked away, leaving Matt and Michelle to their hollow existence. Later, I learned from an old acquaintance that Matt and Michelle had divorced. Matt had finally reached his breaking point after Michelle belittled him too many times. Emma and Jessica grew even closer, like true sisters. Jonathan eventually proposed, and I said yes. Looking back, I saw my first marriage as a mistake, but it had led me to where I truly belonged. Now, Jonathan, Emma, Jessica, and I are building a new life together, full of love and joy. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay amazed.